From bandicoots to battle-hardened super soldiers, the PlayStation is single-handedly responsible for some of the most iconic characters and franchises of all time. And while there are so many to love, I wanted to look back at the very best the console had to offer. This is my top 10 PS1 games. It didn't take much to sell a three-dimensional fighting game during the second half of the 90s, but Tekken 3 definitely wasn't content to rest on its laurels. The arcade port pushed the boundaries of the PlayStation's graphical capability, and the highly acclaimed gameplay improvements took the series even further into the third dimension. So many new fighters and so many things to do, thanks to the addition of minigames, that it was hard to believe Tekken 3 could even exist on the PS1. But exist it did, and it was awesome enough that many people still consider it the best of the entire series. Vagrant Story is perhaps one of the original PlayStation's most underrated games, a massive action RPG developed by a powerhouse RPG hit machine, helmed by one of the most underrated authors of the last 25 years. It's a game that in many ways almost shouldn't work. It stacks an almost ridiculous amount of systems on top of a plot dense with political intrigue, dark magic, and at least 2 textbooks worth of ancient history. But it all comes together in a truly exceptional experience. You'll manage special attacks, customize weapons tailored for specific enemy types, build your own armor, solve puzzles, and fight some of the hardest bosses this side of Dark Souls using a rhythm-based battle system. While it remains the most underrated and oft-forgotten entry in Square's PlayStation catalog, that doesn't prevent this hidden gem from being one of the best the console had to offer. Obviously, GT2 was more than just a super sleek tech demo. The series popularized the racing sim genre with its faithful yet accessible action, and GT2 was simply as good as things got on the PS1. Even those who were uninterested in cars and or racing were drawn in by the influential power of the title. And let's not forget the over 600 highly detailed vehicles and a realistically robust customization system. Though it enjoyed a cracker of a remake in 2018, the power of the original Resident Evil 2 is still untouched. Set in a bizarro police station, an elaborate evolution of the first game's haunted house theme, Resident Evil 2 combined ornate weird puzzles with a plethora of nasties that ranged from the garden variety zombie to more out there monstrosities like a giant moth and sentient, mutated poison ivy. Throw in a hulking, seemingly invulnerable tyrant that relentlessly pursues you, and the ability to play through from 2 different perspectives, and you've got an all-time horror classic. Silent Hill wasn't content with mere jump scares and ugly creatures. It aimed to psychologically devastate you to ensure you were afraid to go to sleep. And for some reason, we absolutely love it for that. With its dense fog, smothering darkness, and multiple dimensions, Silent Hill created one of the most terrifying and memorable environments ever seen in a video game. Even more unsettling was that the game's protagonist, Harry Mason, wasn't some chain-smoking space marine. He was a normal dude who was sucked at fighting, whether this was an excuse for a poor control scheme or an intentional combat deterrent. We certainly gained a new appreciation for the term survival. Running away is exactly what you would do if being chased by deadly monsters, and we'll always appreciate Konami's understanding of this idea. Also, an alien abduction ending was possible. Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 2 isn't just regarded by many of the most monumental game in the series, and it isn't just considered as one of the greatest sports game ever created. It's one of the highest rated video games of all time. No matter what some desperate ding-dongs trying to review bomb it 18 years too late may think, Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 2 was an absolute cultural haymaker, marrying exquisite arcade extreme sports action with a soundtrack that launched a million mixtapes. The original Tony Hawk's Pro Skater was one of the most influential and iconic games of its era, and adding more moves, a simple but wildly addictive skate park editor, and a sack full of more searingly good songs made this stunning sequel a spectacular refinement of the formula. The precursor for rhythm games such as Dance Dance Revolution and Rock Band, Parappa the Rapper took a nifty idea of timing button presses to match specific beats and added charming paper-like animations, funny lyrics, and seriously catchy tunes. With songs about learning to drive a car and competing for a turn on the toilet, the tone was always light-hearted and extremely enjoyable. It didn't take much for that enjoyment to quickly devolve into a hilarious mess if you mistime your button presses. Honestly, hearing Parappa miss his cues and come in at the wrong times was just as satisfying as winning the game. Well, for spectators at least.
Pause! Duck! Duck! And turn! Yeah, I see you're getting better. Kick to the limit in order to get an out kick.
Releasing an old-looking 2D Castlevania on the PlayStation seemed like a strange move to some in 1997. Even IGN's original review reads, "It looks like the same old 2D platform action as before." Other classic franchises had already made the jump into the third dimension, and new games like Tomb Raider were showing what the PS1 could do that previous consoles could not. But keeping Symphony of the Night 2D allowed Konami to refine Castlevania's gameplay to absolute perfection. And its beautiful pixel art has aged much better than most of its 3D contemporary. Then there's the incredible soundtrack, which fans are still humming to this day. Castlevania Symphony of the Night is about as close as a perfect video game as you can get, one that is still being copied and iterated on by modern developers. Of course, this game is on my list, but really there's not a whole lot I can say about Final Fantasy VII that you don't already know. This game raised the bar for the RPG genre. It's the Beatles of role-playing games. Cloud and Sephiroth have become icons in gaming, all because of their grand adventure in 1997. Final Fantasy VII succeeded at all three of the major gaming points: gameplay, story, and graphics. The material-based battle system still influences game design today. The story features one of the most tragic plot twists of all time, and the graphics at the time were beyond anything we'd ever seen. FF7 was a revolution, and everyone else just had to catch up. Before we go to my number 1 pick, here are some honorable mentions: Crash Bandicoot 2 Cortex Strikes Back, Worms Armageddon, Ape Escape, Legacy of Kain Soul River, Oddworld, Abe's Odyssey. Long before we had the intricate sandbox of the Phantom Pain, and before the twisting plots of the Patriots or bloated diatribes on the complex political realities of war, the third entry in Hideo Kojima's Metal Gear series, cardboard box scrolled its way onto the PS1 and things were never the same again. Metal Gear Solid offered a singularly unique blend of stealth action gameplay and coupled it with a wholly bizarre yet utterly delightful cast of characters and a story that challenged our ideas of traditional video game heroes and pushed at the boundaries of cinematic storytelling in video games at the time. All of these exceptional elements plus some truly unforgettable breaks in the fourth wall combined to create a gaming experience that still holds up as one of the best to this day. Okay guys, that's it. If you guys like the video, leave a like, let me know what you think of the video, and as always, I hope you enjoy.